unfortunately, kind of move from the elections to other things that people unfortunately are going to do what they want to do when they want to do. Papo, white man are still out here terrorizing
They in
the
trouble,
world.
though, ain't they?
Oh, white man. Now,
They can after themselves on this one.
so
Considering the demographic and all.
we just had the 307th mass shooting within 311 days.
Yeah.
And yes, we're talking about the Thousand Oaks shooting and the suspect, Ian David Long. And unfortunately, we live in a world nowadays where anytime there's a mass shooting that happens, me and the wife play a game of guess the race. And I'd say 95% of the chance we're right when we say white male. Oh, somebody shot something up? White male. Yeah.
Well, you know why though, right? Because who hates the international terrorists the most? We'll lump up all international terrorists as being just strictly asses and Muslims. So if who hates the Muslims the most, you would think probably the white man. So they would have to be the leader of domestic terrorism, which is what this is considered, right?
You know, I'm starting to think that white men want to stop immigration. They want to stop the Mexicans and the Muslims from coming in because white men want to be the ones to continue shooting shit up. That's why I'm starting to think that they like, no, we ain't gonna let nobody come in our country shoot nothing up. We want to do all the shooting. We get to decide all this here shooting. But yeah, unfortunately, we live in a world where mass shootings happen so often that we could find humor, unfortunately, dark humor in it all. But yeah, the gunman, Ian David Long, he killed 12 people at a crowded bar in Thousand Oaks, California, and he was a Marine combat veteran. Now, people are saying that he likely suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, but the Marines are coming out saying they have no evidence, no record, no evidence of it. Huh?
Like, we let the nigga go a long time ago. Like he barely made it to the training.
Now, and it's the whole thing where we get into, and this is, again, in my personal opinion, this is going back to white privilege. You run into the scenario of a white person shoots up some shit, and then we start coming up with these excuses. Oh, mental health. Oh, man, don't get too mad at the white race. Mental health. He had mental health issues. But, I mean, we eventually need to have this conversation of why are white men so ready to shoot stuff up. Like, we need to have that conversation. If every time Black Lives Matter comes up and you're like, oh, well, what about the violence in Chicago? Anytime we talk about anything else, I need white people to answer why they keep shooting stuff up. If you want to bring up, the Middle East and the Middle East isn't progressive and they still do this. Nah, we need to talk about why white men are shooting everything up. If us minorities, we got to answer. If black people got to answer for Chicago, Mexicans got to answer for immigration, Muslims got to answer for ISIS. White people need to answer for why they are single-handedly the most dangerous race in this country, possibly the world. We need to finally have those conversations. If you don't want to have those conversations, it's because you want to continue to be protected by your white privilege.
But I'm wondering though, then what kind of conversation can you have other than an honest one? Then, if you're able to again to look at the facts, because we're gonna always look at that, and then also look, because then it'll be like, well, how you can't lump one person, to represent a whole race, as I know you have been, having to be held at that very same standard. But the fact that if we look at each of the races of these 307 shootings, and mind you, it's 311 days because there's only 365 days a year. So again, within the whole year, there's been that many. That's almost a shooting a day. So much that when we do hear about things, unless it's a high number, unless these niggas are getting top rank on Call of Duty, like, we're not going to hear about it or care about it unless it's a whole new high score. And I think that's so terrible.
And that is terrible. That's where we're at. And that's the whole thing. So in an ideal world, yes, it is impossible for white people to answer why these mass shootings keep coming up white men. It's impossible for white people to answer that question. just like it's impossible for black people to overnight solve what's going on in Chicago. Like, and so that's the whole point. So if I'm held accountable for everything all black people ever do, then white people need to be held accountable for everything that white people ever do. And then if you guys don't want to ever be held accountable for that, stop holding us accountable for, like, we have to have this equal playing field when it comes to all of this stuff. And so yeah, just going back over some of the stories. So yeah, Ian David Long was 28. He was dressed in all in black with his hood pulled low. He entered the Borderline Bar and Grill around 11:20 p.m. on Wednesday, opened fire as a number of students were gathered for a college country night. At least 23 people were injured while trying to escape the veterans rampage. Ventura County officials report Long was found dead of a gunshot wound inside of the bar in an office adjacent to the entry, and people believe that he shot himself. Now, the other thing that was crazy that came out about the whole the same story is TMZ reported. Did you hear that he apparently posted on Instagram as he was doing the massacre?
Was it during or just before he got in? Because I did remember hearing something about that. See, was it Instagram or was it Facebook, or does he have a feed that maybe goes from one place to another? Because I was hearing not conflicted stories, but things kind of mentioning both. And definitely the day and age we live in, the beauty of RSS feed, we can send from one thing and shit it out another place.
Crossfeed, baby, crossfeed. Now, this, according to TMZ, is that he posted it on Instagram, and that's why people are starting to think that's a revenge killing. Let me load this up. But,
that's one thing that you can never, ever really. I mean, I guess you can always have red flags, and the signs are always there, because you always hear the story of, oh well, he was such a nice person, or like when you hear something about your neighbors doing something outlandish, like, oh, he said good morning to us every day, like that really doesn't matter. And when you're in the heat of something, like you're literally limitless and boundless to, saying what could happen. There's this other story where you look this up that happened in Colorado. Dude murdered his wife. Supposedly she drowned their two daughters. She was pregnant, and I guess he got caught up cheating and said he was going to dip out. So she had supposedly she then again let it out on the kids, and then him, of course, coming home to see this shit, let her have it. But now he apparently made a guilty plea that he did all of it. But it's all plausible.
See, it all comes back. If that woman would have just let her man cheat and not worry about it, none of that shit would have happened. That's all I'm hearing.
Beyonce.
That's all
listen
I'm hearing.
To Beyonce. If you're gonna listen to her,
listen to me later. Lemonade. Listen to it. Now, so the suspect, posted on.
Wait, really quickly, verse. There was on the podcast does not condone any sort of murders or any sort of dangerous activities that would nullify you or this party. This is simply entertainment.
We just joking, y'all. It's just jokes on jokes on jokes. Now, Long, which looks like a mass shooter in this picture, he looked like he ready to shoot some shit up. Sources say that Long posted the same message, or so. Actually, go back, because I hate when they do the updates. They do the update at the top. So the shooter who terrorized college students at Borderline Bar and Grill was shockingly on social media as he shot a dozen people dead. And based on what we know now, it sounds like they were revenge killings. Sources say investigators discovered the message on Long's page several hours after the shooting, contacted Instagram to delete his page. And he said, oh yeah, so it looks like the same message was on Instagram and Facebook. And he said, I hope people call me insane. Wouldn't that just be a big ball of irony? Yeah, I'm insane, but the only thing you people do after these shootings is hopes and prayers, or keep you in my thoughts every time and wonder why these keep happening. Whoa, that's eerie. That's eerie.
So repeat that again. That gets lost upon so much. And I was thinking this was about the mother who wasn't asking for no thoughts and prayers. That's what I thought that post was. What happens every time that someone dies, and really, other than you trying to donate to a GoFundMe place, and you have a running joke where he's talking about, I can't cash in thoughts and prayers or whatever, and I know that's materialistic, but
that's the truth. Thoughts and prayers don't pay for no funerals.
So
message.
And looking at him, and this is gonna come back later at the end of the show, I promise you, but he looks a little dead in his eyes.
Yeah, just a tad bit dead. Yeah, let me bring that back up.
It's just a lump of meat. Oh, you're gonna take my picture? Okay.
Now it was funny because I remember one time at work, because I've tried not to have these conversations at work because I'm a firm believer and I have no problem having a conversation about anything with anyone. The problem is I don't like having what I call soundbite conversations. So I'm not going to have a conversation with someone.
Story conversations.
Wait, say that again.
Where all you're going off of is the headline. You know what I'm saying?
Or more so in the sense of like, if you ask me, so if you're a conservative Republican and then you ask me about Black Lives Matter or something like that or wherever, and we're at work or we're in a scenario where we're only going to talk for 60 seconds, I'm not going to have this conversation with you because this topic is way deeper than a 60-second. Like, we need a lot more time to actually talk about this. So then I could say something, you can say something in return. We can figure out where we're differing or whatever, and then we can get down to the bottom of it. So I think, unfortunately, we live in a world where too many people, they like to talk off of sound bites. But one time I was at work, and it was actually funny. There was me. It was me and a couple other managers, and we were in the office. One of the managers, white male, another manager came in, young white female. And so, and no surprise, at that time there was some other shooting that had just happened, and the guy had joked. He was like, hey, he's like, you saw that the shooting that happened, right? And then I was like, yeah. He was like, what race do you think the person was, or whatever? And I was like, honestly, I was like, we all know it was a white guy. And then we were laughing about that, and we are like, yeah, every time it's one of these shootings, it's a white guy. And then the white
nationality. The guy who was
he was white.
Okay.
Yeah, he was white, the one that brought it up. And then the white girl was like, oh my God. She was like, that's racist. You can't say that. And I was like, no. I was like, let's look at all the shootings, the mass shootings, and the majority of them are white people. Like, let's be honest about this. And but yeah, it was one of those things where I try to avoid those conversations or whatever, because because with her, I would like to sit down with her and be like, okay, why do you think it's racist? Why do you think it's racist that we had said that a mass shooting, more than likely it was a white person? Like, why would you think that was racist? Now, if a story came out that a drive-by shooting happened and someone said, guess the race of, oh, black. Yeah, if it was a drive-by shooting, yeah, more like it was probably a black person. That's what black people do, drive-bys in gang activities or whatever. But when
if they ask you, he was driving a pickup truck, I'm like, oh, well, Mexican.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So there's certain things that it's like, oh, well, that's probably what it was or whatever. And so it's just that case of and that's again, that's the part that unfortunately some white people don't get, is that it's not racist to say that white people do this and do that when you guys don't feel it's racist to say that everyone else is doing this, that, and the third. But anyway,
let me ask you really quickly: did you watch the Spike Lee movie, Klansman?
No, I have not seen that yet. I want to see
Black Card back. But let me tell you, there's a scene though where they mentioned something.
Spoiler alert.
Oh no, actually, you know what? I'm gonna take it back, because it was someone commenting in the movie that brought up the conversation. But they're asking, because obviously when you look at the Klansmen or whatever, and you kind of think to yourself, well, why is it that they have the ability to continue to have these gatherings? And the answer is simply I don't know if it's the First Amendment right or whatever, but freedom of speech. That's ultimately because of that, they have that ability, and if they have the proper paperwork and whatever ish that has to go through the city, then they can march, they can protest. Now, because of, and I thought this was hilarious, but I'm really curious on your take, because we have, I don't know when the hell Mexican Heritage Month is, I really don't know, but we all know that Black History Month is in February, shortest month of the year. Yeah. When they ask, well, where's the celebration for whites? How would you answer that?
It's every day of the year. It is every day of the year. And it happens every time we get ready to go into February, and you get some of those white people that, oh my God, they're not going to hold me back with this one. Where's White History Month? And I always say it's every other day of the year. And then when they don't understand that, it's okay, let's open up a school textbook. And let's see how many people in there are white. Let's see how much history we're covering that is white.
Who's this Victor that we keep, knowing of? You know what I'm saying?
We're going to keep talking about all the great things that white people did, and that whole book is all the great thing. And it's as if that is the only history that happened, when there's a lot of history. We can go back to one of the things I like to point out is when you read about world history, at least from an American standpoint, I don't have, history books from all over the world. And this, again, is high school. I'm not talking college. Of course, college, you get a whole lot deeper with certain things. But in school, you learn about the Dark Ages in England. You learn about the Dark Ages when, oh my God, it was just things were bad and the Black Plague and Dark Ages. The thing that they don't tell you is that the Dark Ages in England happened during a golden age in Islam. The Muslims were running the world when it came to science and a whole bunch of other things. Another thing they don't talk about is during those Dark Ages, part of the reason why it was the Dark Ages were the Moors from Africa, who they were the African armies or whatever. They almost wiped white people or Europe, if you will, off the planet. So during the Dark Ages, oh my God, it was just Dark Ages. And England was the only world that was the only thing alive. And it was just Dark Ages. No, Africans had it popping, Muslims had it popping, but we're not going to talk about that.
Oh, them definitely some dark days and a bunch of
it genuinely was dark days. It was dark days. It was dark days for the white men. And and that's the whole thing or whatever, when it's like, well, when's White History Month? Every other day out the year. That's the point, is that we spend all school year learning about the great things that white people did and why the bad things that they did, why they had to do those. And then that's the reason why you need a month to be like, okay, well, this is what Black people did. Even though we talk about the same fucking 4 Black people, we talk about, well, Martin Luther King did this, and then Malcolm X did this, and then Rosa Parks said that I'm not standing up, and then that was the end. It's been good ever since then. Like but that's the reason why you need these other recognitions of what's going on in the world or wherever, because like everything isn't just white men. It's not. But speaking of white men, though, one thing that was unfortunate, going back to the shooting, was this. Oh my God, this is not an episode of the Black Mirror. You had Telemachus Orphanos, who survived the Las Vegas mass shooting. He died during the Thousand Oaks mass shooting. He went from surviving one mass shooting to dying in another one. Holy fuck. Wow.
Did you ever watch the Final Destination movies?
Yes.
Basic premise, of course, what the accident happens at the beginning, and then all of a sudden the people that are survived, death chases each and one of them as it goes down the list. Like, that seems so scary that was kind of true life in some kind of way.
Now the thing, because even though I talk mess about Christians and I talk mess about religion, I hate using the word spiritual, but I believe in a higher power. Call it God, call it the source, call it whatever you want to call it. I do believe in that. And I don't believe in coincidences. And so I don't think it's a coincidence that this man that survived this one mass shooting then died in another one. What I personally take it as is God, if you will, turning a reflection on America and saying, hey, you have these shootings that keep happening and you guys keep thoughts and prayers and ain't nothing coming about it. Let's show you the scenario of this once in a lifetime thing of this guy surviving this one and then dying over in this one. You guys need to reflect and figure out what you guys are doing to fix this. And what's up?
I was gonna say, no, there was another story that of someone who went to the first one and survived both of the shootings, which I want to look up their name because Lord forbid, but eventually there's gonna be another country music mass shooting, which is just funny in itself that's the demographic that's being targeted, which makes you definitely wonder there might have to be some sleeper cells somewhere.
All I gotta say is if these were hip hop events, they'd shut down hip hop all across the country. Oh my God, they keep having these shootings at hip hop. What's wrong with the hip hop message? The hip hop message is promoting all these mass shootings. That no thoughts and prayers. Stop the hip hop music. Stop it. But and then while you look that up, just to continue on, the crazy part that kind of like messed everybody up was his mom. His mom is furious, and I completely 100% get it. She basically came out and she was like, I don't want your thoughts and prayers. I want gun control. Like, I miss me with the thoughts and prayers. This is fits nothing. Thoughts and prayers for the past
Ooh,
10
I was angry.
ain't fits in nothing. We need to do something. Now, I'm a fine proponent of gun control. We do need some gun control. It shouldn't be as easy to get a gun. Now, is the answer taking the guns away? No, that's not the answer either. I am perfectly fine with saying that I don't know what the answer is. But one thing that I know isn't the answer is more guns. That's not the answer.
But see,
because since there was a go ahead, and I'm gonna find this little thing.
What are you talking about when you say that? Like the answer being more guns? What do you mean?
No,
because
there's a lot of people. Every time this happens, there are a bunch of people who say, "Oh, well, no. The problem is we don't have enough guns. If everybody had a gun, this stuff wouldn't happen. You just arm everybody." When the Jewish synagogue got shot up, no, you just put guns on the outside of that, and then that wouldn't happen. Just put guns everywhere, and then shootings wouldn't happen. We just need more guns.
But real talk though, and I don't know what fucking crazy right wing bastards want to just call for more guns, but imagine if everyone had a gun. Who the fuck would be fearful of who? We're all on the same level. You're leveling the playfield again.
See, but the problem is we still, people have this whole Wild West scenario of, and I think it's because we've grown up on movies. Everyone's not a sharpshooter, and everyone with a gun isn't a hero. So just because everybody has a gun doesn't mean, oh my God, the shooting's about to happen. Oh, well, 12 people came forth and they were heroes. And, oh, I have my gun and I'm going to protect. There's a lot of cowards in the world. Sure. And so regardless if they have the gun or not, there's a lot of people who still aren't going to try to save anything. There was that school shooting that happened earlier this year where there was a school shooting that happened. There was a armed security guard on campus and he still ran. He still ran. They had someone on campus with a gun. He ran. So that's not
getting someone qualified then.
But then that's also the other thing or whatever is how are we going to qualify? Like you can't qualify, and that's the thing with when it comes to cops. Like not all cops are bad, but everyone's not that brave. Like everyone's not going to save the day. Everyone doesn't have that hero aspect in them or whatever. And so no, I found the thing. So U.S. mass shootings, 10 plus fatalities from April 1998, which was Columbine, to June of 2012. There was 5 mass shootings of 10 plus people. From July of 2012, and that was the Aurora shooting, to September of 2017, there was 4 mass shootings of 10 plus fatalities. In the last 403 days, there has been 6. Las Vegas, 58 people died. Sutherland Springs, 26 people died. Parkland, 17 people died. Santa Fe High School, 10 people died. Pittsburgh Synagogue, 11 people died. This Thousand Oaks Bar, 12 people died. There's more guns now than there was back then. So that defeats that thing right there. There's every year there's more guns than there was the year before, and things are getting more violent. There's more guns.
Just because there's more guns doesn't mean that they're all being used or they're all being maintained or they're all not locked up in some kind of display. Like it is. And I'll go back to stating the fact that no one's going to be a hero. So, you know, a lot of times it's just a job, right? You're going to do the bare minimum. You saw that he dipped out. But it's that very sense to where if we're outweighing the crazy bastards with guns and those that have a heart to serve and protect that don't, like, it's just imagine if again, equal playing field. But the thing is, it's so easy because one of the issues that I feel like should be touched upon is the gun control in the essence to where there has to be way more ways to qualify someone into purchasing a gun.
Yes.
Obviously, even then, most of these mass shootings were with legal guns. But guess what? It came from a parent's house, came from a grandparent's house. There is so much room for error. Technically, I guess no one should freaking have it because in the same essence, back under the rule of Sheriff Joe Arpaio, there was 49 guns missing. That's a lot of guns. I can understand 1 or 2, hell, maybe even 10. I'll give you 10. But for 49 or 49 guns, either way, it's a lot to be missing from whatever area where they hold things, you know, for safekeeping or from confiscations or whatever. Like, to have that many guns missing, and I think 5 of them, so there's a recent shooting is the fact that those guns were in the possession of the authorities, and yet somehow got back on the streets, which lets you know there's some kind of shenanigans happening, but again, all obtained legally somehow from even the highest ranking. So if we don't protect that and how it trickles down, how can we control what kind of crazy gets their hands on it? So again, yeah, I don't know.
And I agree with that. And that's why I don't think the answer, because there's some people super liberal who are like, take all the guns away. That's not the answer either. There's way too many guns out there. There's no way you're going to be able to get all of them. But the thing with this whole balancing out, so, okay, today, right now, there's nothing stopping more people from getting gun training and becoming these heroes. There's no laws stopping them. So where are these people? Like, there's this whole thing of, oh, well, we need to arm more. Well, then they should get armed. Like, where are these mythical crime fighters? Like, there's no laws right now stopping anyone from stepping up and doing this. So I could understand if there was a law where, oh, well, you can't do this, but there's no law. And that's why that's my point, is that those people don't exist, because those people would already be doing this because there's no law stopping them from doing that. So the answer
unless you live in a very
guns out.
Right. Well, again, like we mentioned, Chicago being so notorious for black on black crimes and shootings and killings, they have some of the strictest gun laws. For those that are citizen abiding, they have the toughest laws. Yeah. Here, you don't even need a license. But again, in a place like, for that example, yeah, they're tough.
Yeah, and that's the reason why, like, the whole thing is, we need to, for one, we do need to make it more difficult to get your hands on guns or whatever. There's still going to be that trickle down effect where somebody's still going to get their hands on it. There's nothing you can do about that. But you have that aspect of it. Then there's the aspect of, I don't understand why semi-automatic weapons are being sold. Like, unless you're a hunter, there's no need for AR-15s unless you're a hunter. I had a dude.
Even a hunter shouldn't have that many freaking clips. I thought it was about the beauty of the shot and making sure you don't waste the meat.
I had a dude that I worked with at my last job, and I always thought that he was a little off or whatever, and somehow it came up. He was like, oh man, I got a whole bunch of guns or whatever. I got an AR-15 at my house. Of course you got a fucking, of course you do. Of course you do. Why do you need one? Why do you need an AR-15? I got to make sure I'm protected. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. There's no need for AR-15s and semi-automatic weapons in the city. Like, I understand it if you're a hunter, like, you need to hunt with that stuff, but there's no need for those to be in the cities. And that's the reason why I am perfectly fine with standing here saying that I'm not a big Second Amendment person and, oh, everybody needs guns, but I'm also not the person to say that we need to take guns away. I am perfectly okay with saying that at this point in America, I have no idea what the answer is. But I know thoughts and prayers ain't the answer, and I know more guns are not the answer, because we've been doing thoughts and prayers since the beginning of time, and every year we got more guns than we did the year before. This obviously isn't fits anything, because
I do. Let me throw a caveat though, because I understand one would think, and again, this is coming from the Bible thumper of the show. As much as you might say that thoughts and prayers aren't something, let me honestly ask you, because I can honestly admit not being, worthy of being deemed a Christian, but how many times will a mug actually get on their hands and knees, or let's say they're a Muslim, they already have to do it 5 times a day, with all the tragedies and messed up things that happen throughout the day? Can you think that takes a lot of time? Like, without trying to sound like an asshole, like, praying takes a lot of time. It also takes a lot of effort, because you just figure you can just bow your head and be like, all right, let me win the lottery. Make sure that girl with the fat fatty just brushed it against me one day. No harm, no foul. Hey, she did it. Like, as much as you can hope and pray on the selfish things, like, what actually constitutes, for example, something in the Old Testament, when all the apostles were sleeping on Jesus, the day before he really had to walk up the cross, they said that he would bleed from his forehead from such hardcore prayer. And like, there's been times where I feel like this weird, like, not red, a heated magnet, like for my forehead sometimes when I try to do like the same stance that the Islam's pray, like, so I can understand him tapping his head and and it getting irritated. And imagine there's no freaking carpets, or I'm sure there's carpets, but he's praying in the freaking wilderness, so I'm sure he has little rocks and all these things that are pounding into his head as he's so into his prayer. I'm wondering how many people are actually going to do that for these random people that die damn near every single day, as we've seen statistically.
And so that's my point about thoughts and prayers aren't working. It's not the simple fact that thoughts and prayers can't fix anything. It's that all these Republicans, they keep saying, "Oh, well, thoughts and prayers." You're not actually doing anything.
You're getting a shout out, if anything.
Yeah, that's a quick shout out. My cousin Rome. Like, so that's the reason why thoughts and prayers don't work. Not that in the literal sense of that they can't work, but in the actual sense of these people aren't thinking and praying about these people. They are saying this so Christians could be like, yeah, thoughts and prayers, and then so that's the whole point. Is it's just that's a buzzword. Oh,
right. I like that.
Sure that you don't upset the NRA. Throw this buzzword out there. The Christians that want to hop on your bandwagon, they're gonna hop on your bandwagon. So again, it's not in the literal sense of that thoughts and prayers can't work. It's in the sense that you guys aren't doing it. You're not thinking and praying about nobody. You don't care. You don't care. So
right. So the fact that this woman was saying that, like, I hope people can retweet the story. I'm sure we'll have it in the show notes to some of the main topics that we hit, that you can check this out too if you're too lazy to do your Googles, because this is real hardcore stuff, and I feel like it needs to be repeated, maybe regurgitated to fit whatever form or fashion. But I did find there is a guy named Brandon Kelly. He was one of the dudes who survived both shootings, and he looks like a typical kid that you would see at a country event, probably trying to grab bitches by the pussy. But there's another story that I wanted to throw out. This happened actually just near the end of October. There were a couple that survived the Las Vegas shooting. They died in a car crash. So again, it's on some Final Destination things, because this happened. There's another lady that it happened to them too. It's crazy. People that were up that survived the first shooting. I don't know what the quota was that God allowed the devil to be like, all right, nigga, you can have, I'll give you 55. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they only got 51 of them. So like, there's still 4 more on the quota poll that we had to hit. But it is spooky when you see them catch the L in some other hideous fashion. Like, I don't know what that means.
Oh no, it's crazy. It is crazy.
If you didn't like this podcast, it's probably cause you're racist.
Yeah.
Fuck your feelings though.
Yeah. What's up, man? You hear me?